Well, we are finally almost to this point. Yesterday I brought this thing up, kind of forgot that I hadn't power washed the frame yet. So I did that and kind of dug into, I had to replace this input shaft seal. Well, I forgot to order the O-ring for the seal housing. This is actually not, this is two-part. This is the seal housing, and then it's also your bearing retainer that sets the clearance on your input shaft bearings. This is actually shimmed, which these guys right here, so when you take that out and put it back in, you want to make sure you don't leave any shims out. Although technically the amount of hours this thing's got on it, I mean, if you had the transmission open and you could gauge everything like you're supposed to when you're setting your bearing clearances, I'd be willing to bet you probably need to take at least one shim out, but you can't get in there to see what's going on. We're putting them all back in. And then in the process of doing that, noticed that apparently this thing had ate a chain coupler at some point and put a nick right there and a nick right there and did all that damage right there on this steel line. So we're going to replace that line real quick while we got everything out of the way and there's ample room to do it. And then we should be good to slap the 3-speed on the engine and set it back in here. But I already got the seal swapped out, and Dad went today and got an O-ring because we didn't have the tubing and stuff, so he went and got everything while I was at work. So anyhow, I'm gonna slap this guy in right quick, and we'll pull that tube off, and I'm guessing that's what he got this short piece for, was to make that. So yep. All right, we're all set back here. Decided to push this thing outside to work on it to make life easier, so we don't got to worry about headroom, and we can hook the engine a little more friendly. So I'll set you somewhere. Okay, I'll be able to see decent enough from here, I think. It ain't perfect, but that's what we can do.
whole lot easier than when we took it out.
All right, so I'm gonna start making pretty big skips in here in the process, because from here on out it's all simple bolt shit back on. Not a whole lot. It's not like putting the motor together where we're measuring stuff and checking stuff. It's literally got to bolt stuff back on at this point. But yesterday, after we got the motor in, I got the dash bolted back down. Got the springs back on the brakes. I got to put the brake rods back on, but they're buried in the bottom of the pile, so got to wait. Have to get these two power steering lines done. So those are not, I got them hand tight, but they're not hooked up yet. And I guess I should make a note about this. We made this lift rigging. This goes on the inspection plate, or where the inspection plate would go for the 3-speed or 2-speed. And then these just bolt on where your manifolds are. Just because it makes it a whole lot nicer to 3-point this than using the lifting bolts that they put on here from the factory. And to be perfectly honest, I do not get a warm fuzzy feeling about picking up a completely assembled engine with a completely assembled 3-speed off of one 5/8 bolt. It just does not. And then they're all set to one side of the block, so it just, this is easier. But what I want to get done today for sure is I want to get the radiator put back on and hooked up so that I can fill the block with coolant, because what I want to do is pull the drain plug and let it sit overnight full of coolant and make sure we don't have any leaks before I go dumping oil in it. And we have a pressure pot that we made to prime the system with oil, to get oil through all the galleries and pre-lube everything before you start the motor. That way you're not wearing the starter out doing it with the starter. But anyway, just to make sure we're not going to have any issues with coolant, because that's the big thing. And like I say, I want to get the radiator on, get it hooked up, then fill a block with coolant to make sure we don't have any leaks. And you're going to say, well, the thermostat's in it. You're not going to get the block all the way full. Correct, except for if by chance we got a head gasket leak or a liner leak or a leak somewhere, air's going to go through just as easier than antifreeze. So if there is by chance a coolant leak somewhere, the air is going to find it first, and the air will bleed out of the leak and allow the block to fill up. So it's a quick easy way to find a possible leak and not ruin any oil that I might put in the pan. So I'm gonna run down and get the radiator, and we're gonna get that put on and hooked up and fill her up with coolant and let her sit, and I'll keep putting on peripheral crap after that. Okay, radiator's on, it's full of coolant. It took a lot more than I thought. I bet it took probably 4.5 gallon, and I think it's only a 5.5 gallon system, so we got a fair bit in there before it airlocked. And the biggest reason I want to go through all this is that head gasket. It's kind of, I think this one's past the point of being experimental. I'm pretty sure Maybach's been using these for quite a while now, but the last time we did a head on this, we had Brad's first iteration of this head gasket, which was a steel gasket with copper crush ring or copper fire rings, and then square cut silicone washers that went around all of the oil and coolant ports, and that didn't work for shit. We put the head on, torqued it down, did everything the way they said. Granted, my head deck was all screwed up, so that didn't help any, but got it all together, had it sitting in the tractor. I was filling the radiator, and antifreeze started running out the side of the head gasket right here, like that far down. It was just spilling out the side. So I wanted to put the coolant system or cooling system together and get coolant in it to make sure that didn't happen again. So now I think I am good. I'm gonna go ahead and get the manifolds put on it and some of the other peripheral crap. Okay, made some major progress. Starter's on. Exhaust manifold's on. Intake manifold's on. All the wiring is hooked up. Bypass oil filter's on. Oil lines are on. Cooler lines for the 3-speed are hooked up. That's actually all I got really today. It took me a minute. Part of why I didn't like having this thing tore apart this long is all of a sudden you start forgetting stuff like how the wiring was routed and everything, and what you went behind and what you went around and yada yada yada. But so it took me a minute to get that figured out. But so we're good there. I have to tomorrow. I'll wire up the 12-volt outlet, which I'm probably going to stick right in here somewhere, and just run. Should be able to get away with running some wires up. I haven't quite decided yet, because you really don't want them up through here, so I might end up sneaking them. They might end up coming, and I'll zip time and keep them follow up the factory harness. And all I need is a fused link going into the accessory on the, or a fused power wire going to the accessory on the key switch, so that the monitors turn on and off with the key, so that we don't have any issues there. Because ain't nobody like when you forget to turn the monitors off and you go to start the tractor the next day and the batteries are dead. And then a ground, which I can probably ground off of a bolt down here, so that's going to be a short wire. And then, so the biggest thing there is going to be figuring out what I want to do for a bracket. If I can come up with something off of this bolt, and just use the same. Or maybe if I can use these 2 bolts on the 3-speed. That actually wouldn't be bad, because then it'd be right there, and you just bring your cord around and... That might be actually a better deal yet. And that wouldn't be that hard, because all I need is a flat plate, and probably put a little kink in it so that the plug's straight. That might be what I do, because that would make life really damn easy to just put it right there. And then I got the 2 power steering lines out. This guy is the bypass line, or bypass return line, for the steering motor that runs it through the oil cooler and then back to tank. And then this is feed, if I remember right. Yeah, this comes off the priority valve. This is feed. But need to replace the rubber section. So hopefully Dad will have time to do that tomorrow. Because I tell you what, them boogers are not fun to get in and out. So you definitely want them to get them done now. And then once all that's done in the dash, the fuel tank can go back in, and it's all downhill from there. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow. And sorry I'm glossing over so much. First off, there's a whole lot of boring crap, just slapping parts back on and figuring out where everything was supposed to be routed again. And then we're so close to the end of the rainbow here that I am tunnel visioning, and I just want to get the thing back together, because I haven't been able to run it in almost 2 years now, and I'm getting excited and I want it done, and I can get way more done just jumping in and out and tell you how things are progressing, rather than trying to video every single freaking thing. So that's where we're at. So I apologize. We are getting really damn close here. I didn't get the camera out yesterday. I should have, because I could have got video of Dad remaking one of these lines, but it won't be the last time we got to do something like that, so I'll show you later. But these got new hoses put in these lines. Those are all in. The receptacle, I got that put in yesterday. This is what I came up with. Fun fact, these 2 bolts right here are not in a straight line with each other. This one's about a 1/4 inch lower. But you can't really, well, now that I look at it, you can tell, but just if you just, yeah, so I ended up having to slot that hole to level this thing back out, but it's just a piece of, I guess, 12 gauge or something. And then to give it a little bit more meat to stick the reset through, I welded a couple 1.1/8" washers on there just to give a little more cross section so you weren't relying on that little bitty thin piece to hold that thing from tweaking. Not that it should, but when I ran the wires around, I grounded this one here, and then this guy happened to have a handy dandy little 5/16 bolt hole there, so I put a hose clamp to run the wires through and ran it up and got a fuse up here and hooked it up with the accessory pin on the key switch. So we got power. Got the filters on yesterday. Hopefully my oil filters don't leak. I had a bear of a time with those things. Part of the problem with the stock filters you get for these, and I haven't actually had one, I think since the first set I bought, I haven't had one that I've had to fight as bad as this guy here. But part of the problem is sometimes I put too much packing in them and they end up too tall and too stiff. And you gotta cram them bastards in there. And I played hell getting this one to fit right. And then this one, the gasket wasn't quite right. So hopefully it fits. What I really need to do is for this thing, the 1800 and the 1955, they make a filter base that goes on here that converts at least this one to a spin-on and gets rid of that sock filter. I need to do that one of these days. Corvs, I know Corvs has them, and I'm pretty sure Mayboss sells them, and you could probably get them a couple other places. But and the fuel filters are on. So basically, as far as parts, I'm down to the fuel tank and the air filters. But I'm not going to put those on until we get done using this apparatus we got going on here. Basically, this is a pressure pot for priming the oil system. You fill this up with your motor oil, and you plug the air chuck into it, and it's got a regulator on it, and you put about 20 pounds on it, and it will push oil. You hook it into the main oil gallery. It'll push oil through all the oil system, prime the main bearings, rod bearings, push oil up into the head, push oil up into the turbo, and then it all runs back down into the oil pan. And basically you can push enough oil in this to pump all 12 quarts into the oil pan. So 12 quarts, right? Or no, 10 quarts. I can't remember. You'd think I'd have that memorized by now. I'd start dumping oil. I'm pretty sure it's 10 quarts because I think it takes 2.5 jugs. Should be 10 quarts. But it'll fill the filter housings up, whole 9 yards. That way you're not cranking the shit out of the engine to prime the fuel system, and you got the added benefit. You can see if you're making oil pressure before you even start the engine. So, I'll get this filled up real quick and we'll show you how it works. Okay, so got it filled up with oil. This is a sight tube. It'll tell you how much is left in there. Air hose is hooked up. And you just, hopefully the regulator's still set. Yep, we're good. So I'll give her a little bit more. Got about 20 pounds of pressure on it. And it'll just start pushing oil in. What you got to get before it actually registers pressure on the oil pressure gauge, you got to get a fair bit in there to prime everything up. I doubt it's showing any pressure. Nope, not yet. Is it moving? It might be moving. The gauge doesn't actually zero. That's the next thing. I want to get this gauge restored. It works, it reads right, it just for some reason doesn't zero. But it's moving. ever so slowly. But it's gotta push a fair bit of oil in there before it'll actually read, because you're filling your oil filters and the whole 9 yards before it'll actually read what the regulator will read. So now we wait. All right, I'm on my second fill. I pushed about 7 quarts in there. That's about what this thing holds full. Should have made it a little bit taller and could have got a full 8 quarts in it, but so we got, nope, take it, told you wrong. Push 5 quarts into it. It just doesn't quite hold 6 quarts. So I'm pushing 3 more quarts into it, and then we'll take all this menagerie off and let the oil settle out while I'm putting the fuel tank on, and then whatever I need to add to finish filling it, I'll just add with the or add through the filler. But so far no leaks. It's dripping oil out of that fitting is that little spot right there, but no leaks. I got about 15 pounds oil pressure out of it. Part of it takes this thing a little bit to build oil pressure, and then you'll never get it up to full pressure of what your air pressure's at, because you're moving such a low volume of oil that it has time to leak out into the pan before, because you're not pushing as much volume as what the oil pump would be pushing. So, but 15 pounds of pressure ain't bad, so I'll let this do its thing, and I gotta get the fuel tank up here and drop that on, and well, I'll get the fuel tank on, I'll put the air filters and everything back on, and it should, after that, be by all right, ready to start. I got a few, well, I want to see if I can put the shutoff cable in a different spot, because the way they had it run, it was rubbing right here on number 6 injector line, and it's going to do the same thing on this one, so I really want to put it in a different spot if I can. But I need the fuel tank in there, and then I need the fuel tank in there so that I can run the battery cables, and I got to tie all the wiring up. But anyway, I got to get the fuel tank in, so that's where we're at. All right, fuel tank's on. All the wiring's hooked up. It's almost like the damn tractor grew an inch, because I could not, you can see right there the marks from where the zip ties were the last time I had the battery cables tied up, and I'll be damned if I can get them pulled back that far to get them back there. I don't know what the heck the difference is, but all the wiring's tied up. Shut off our kill cables hooked up. Return line, fuel tank's obviously in. I gotta prime the system, but I want to dump the sediment bowl because there's some floaties in it, some pretty decent sized floaties. Where those came from, I don't know. This harness is tied in. One of these is the airflow or air filter restriction, and then that one is for the preheater solenoid, and then that's the preheater power. But those will go on when I get the air cleaner on. Yeah. So all I got left to do is I'm gonna let it sit, top the oil off tomorrow. What else? I'll prime the fuel system and put the air cleaners on, and should be good. So I guess that's going to be its own video, and you can't get mad at me because I said in the title, time to start maybe. So every good TV show leaves you on a good cliffhanger to make you come back the next time. So I guess with that, that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one, and she'll be running. I'm excited.